Now's not the time to let up. We have a lot more to do. Vaccine requirements that we started rolling out in the summer are working. They're working. Every day, we see more businesses implementing vaccination requirements, and the mounting data shows that they work.
Just like there was that mounting data that inflation was supposed to be transitory, or that mounting data that Kabul wouldn't fall to the Taliban, right? Of course, it depends on how Biden is defining the word success. Sure, most Americans, when they're forced to choose between losing their jobs and getting a vaccine, they don't want, well, they'll choose the latter. But parents need to support their families. After all, they have to do that. People need to eat. But despite claiming to champion workers' rights, Democrats are showing their true authoritarian colors on the vaccine issue. Now, these small-minded control freaks get a twisted thrill from having all this power over people's lives.
Implementing these mandates creates certainty. It reduces the number of people who are out of work.
California's health care mandate working as it was intended.
Incentives, the mandates, everything's working. We're going to keep moving on that.
When United Airlines thinks they have bragging rights because more than 99% of its employees complied with their vaccine policy, I wonder how many of them felt like they had no choice. So much for the friendly skies. The airline says it's going to fire the 232 employees who said no. The fact is, millions of Americans have heartfelt personal reasons for not getting vaxxed, including that many of them have already had COVID and thus have natural immunity. They're not bad people for feeling this way. They're not stupid people either. It's their choice. Nonetheless, the Biden administration and surrogates treat them as pariahs. Some vengeful forces on the left even revel in the fact that the vaccine refuseniks aren't eligible for unemployment insurance. Illegal aliens are getting better treated. At a time when businesses are having a hard time finding workers, the Biden administration is ensuring that more workers head to the sidelines. And its OSHA mandate results in the firing of workers in our most important and needed professions. I'm talking from healthcare to education, law enforcement, on down. As usual, the effects of Biden's policies are felt most harshly by the regular working class. Northwell Health, the largest healthcare provider in New York, recently fired 1,400 unvaxxed workers. Likewise, Christiana Care, Novant Health, and UC Health System in Delaware, North Carolina, and Colorado, respectively, cut more than 100 workers each, and California-based Kaiser Permanente just put more than 2,200 employees on unpaid leave nationwide. Now, it was obvious from day one that pursuing these reckless mandates would lead to mass firings and resignations of healthcare staff. We knew it would happen. The totals, by the way, are staggering. In New York State alone, roughly 34,000 healthcare workers have lost or quit their jobs over the mandate. That includes over 20,000 home healthcare workers. And now Governor Kathy Hochul is trying to spin the shrinking of her state's healthcare workforce by 3.5% as good news. Yeah, fantastic. Our healthcare sector was already stretched then. We've heard this for years, and of course now it's understaffed. And now some hospitals are operating shifts with skeleton staffs, pun intended. Because who knows how many lives will be lost or adversely impacted because of these shortages? We'll never know. And it's not just people's lives that are at stake, but their safety as well. Today, the president of the Chicago Police Chief Union, who will be with us in moments, issued an incredibly terrifying warning about what's going to happen when Mayor Lightfoot's vaccine mandate goes into effect on Friday. Teachers and school employees also face the choice of getting vaccinated or getting fired. About 8,000 New York City teachers have been placed on leave for refusing to get the jab. To the Biden speechwriters, though, they're just uninformed and partisan.
Vaccination requirements should not be another issue that divides us. School board members, religious leaders, and doctors across the country are fighting misinformation and educating people about the importance of vaccines.
And by educating people on vaccines, Biden means punishing them and pushing them into submission by making things so painful they ultimately choose to relent. Democrats inserted an insidious provision into their massive spending bill that would give OSHA the power to levy huge fines for each violation. I have to say, though, good for Southwest Airlines CEO because he's speaking out against these mandates. And it seems many of his pilots are, too, by all those cancellations. Perhaps the ultimate insult, though, is directed at our troops. The Navy is announcing that those separated only for vaccine refusal will receive no lower than a general discharge under honorable conditions. Now, this type of discharge could result in the loss of some veterans' benefits. Of course, the people who should be fired, though, from positions should be held accountable. They never are. People like Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci, on numerous occasions, they've been caught lying, breaking their word, undermining their professions. What consequences have they ever faced? Zero. In fact, the opposite happens. Instead of being reprimanded, they're showered with accolades.
Dr. Fauci is a hero for many of us.
I would call General Milley a hero. He behaved in a heroic manner.
It's always good to talk to you. Thank you for a steady hand during the crisis here in the Empire State.
At the same time, those brave enough to stand up and ask questions, who demand accountability, from Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller to parents at school board meetings, they're targeted and they're punished. In our upside-down world, grandmothers who wandered around the Capitol taking selfies can face jail time, as George Floyd rioters who looted and burned entire city blocks run free. But Americans, I think they're starting to wake up. That Chicago police union head that I mentioned earlier, he's telling officers to resist the city's vax mandate and force the mayor to relent. Pro sports players are refusing to denounce fellow vax players who choose not to get vaxxed.
I can speak about myself. I think everyone has their own choice to do what they feel is right for themselves and their family.
A few players are simply saying no.
I didn't take the vaccine at this point in time, but natural immunity is not being spoken about or discussed in this country.
What would you do? You know, if you felt uncomfortable going into the season when you were promised that you would have exemptions or that you didn't have to be forced to get the vaccine.
And brave college students, even professors, are taking their fight over mandates to court. Ultimately, the Supreme Court will have to decide whether a century-old case about smallpox is controlling here. In my view, that precedent is easily distinguishable. Cases are declining across America, thank goodness. They plummeted 22% just over the last 2 weeks. And the CDC, not doom and gloom for once, predicting that positive trend is going to continue. So there's absolutely zero reason for any business to have any COVID mandate in place whatsoever, other than if you're sick, stay home. Decisions to force employees off the job are going to haunt businesses for years to come, just as they will haunt Biden and other politicians who insisted on these mandates in the first place. The only people who should be forced out of their jobs because of this pandemic are the officials who kept America in this prolonged state of fear and locked in these mandates. They cost us precious time, precious lives. They wasted trillions of dollars, killed off hundreds of thousands of small businesses, all to grow their own power and help elect Joe Biden. And if Americans could vote today, Biden would hear those two words loud and clear: you're fired. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.